Hey, I'm DJ Skee.
I'm Alex Rubens.
And today we are going to be breaking down Titanfall, the biggest game of the year so far for the Xbox One. Is it worth copping? Does it live up to the hype? What do you think? Well, you got to stay tuned to find out. Skee TV.
Hey, your Titan will be ready in 60 seconds.
What's your initial impression on Titanfall? I know it's like the game of the year so far, especially for Xbox One. Overall, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It does a whole bunch of different stuff that games haven't really done before. You get a mix of giant robot mechs and on-foot Call of Duty stuff, but there's not a lot of content there either. So it kind of it's very fun and like different, but it also gets kind of boring after a while.
It's interesting that you say that because I got the beta demo, like a lot of other people downloaded it, and I was playing it like crazy. I got on it late, so I only played with it for like 2 days, and then they took it away, which was actually the most genius thing I think they ever did from a marketing perspective. Because then I was like so into it and ready to go. Then when I got the game, I played it for like 2 days straight. Didn't really play it again for a little bit after. It kind of got burned out, and it has all these maps and it's super cool. There's nothing wrong with it, but one thing that I kind of found is that like all the maps, even though they're different, they're all really the same, because you're like running around, and it's almost because of the ability that you can, you have the jetpacks and can jump around where, it doesn't really make a difference where you're playing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, overall though, it is a great game, and it's made by, what's the backstory? I know you know a lot more of the history of the game.
Yeah, it's
because you're into the whole Call of Duty world, which I was very disappointed by this year, as I know you were as well.
Yeah, so it's made by Respawn Entertainment. They're basically a new studio that formed out of the original Call of Duty 4 developers.
Yep. Which many said was a lot of people's favorite Call of Duty.
Yeah. It was like the first one that actually made Call of Duty into something, big.
Where this place is amongst games out right now, specifically like Call of Duty, I didn't like Call of Duty this year. I didn't think it was that good. I thought, it was very dull and stale. And to me, this takes I haven't really honestly played it much since I opened out with it. So to me, this really takes the place of Call of Duty.
Yeah. Yeah, Call of Duty seemed like a huge step backwards this year.
Yeah, it was weird.
So and it's like the first next-gen one, you think they'll do something big, they'll do something crazy, but instead it felt like they kind of just different setting for the last game that was made 2 years ago. So I would have liked that they would have done something new, and it kind of feels like this game does that a bit.
Yeah, it feels like, it really took Call of Duty, and look, I think we're kind of giving it it is a good game overall. I don't think there's, I think overall it is a very solid game. It's one of the best games out right now, especially for the next-gen system, and it does a lot of cool things. It's just, it's close, but not almost there. You know what I mean? Like, it has, it's a great game, but you can only play 5-on-5. Which still is a lot of limited. What do you think of the the addition? It's an interesting thing because even when we were setting up to do this review, you have to be connected to the internet to play the game. There's really no. I mean, to me, the single player campaign mode was kind of weird to even include. I don't know if you followed. Did you even do it?
So no, I didn't even play it. I talked to my friends and they said it's not really worth it.
No point. I mean,
you just kind of get some different mechs and that's really it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get like the story is like I have no idea still what happened. I know it's like future militia versus like the army, but I still don't understand it at all.
Yeah, I don't really know why they even tried to include it, because I think this game kind of works because it's like big multiplayer mayhem. It's not necessarily about the story behind it. It's just like we're dropping mechs and blowing stuff up, right? Like, you don't come to this game for the story. You come to it for giant mechs and crazy stuff.
Exactly, and look, by the way they do that, it's super cool. I love the addition of the Titans. I love what you can do with them. It's a whole new gameplay element. To me, this is what Call of Duty almost should be, and obviously it's a different whole story and futuristic genre, but this is to me this just kills Call of Duty.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that Call of Duty needs mechs or anything crazy like that. It's just like they did something different. They went out there to try and do something super crazy, and whether it worked or not, it's like fun because it's different. We haven't had it, and Call of Duty didn't really do that.
Absolutely, and it was a smaller studio that made this in the Call of Duty. Like I heard the team was a lot smaller at first.
Well, there's like 4 different studios that work on each Call of Duty game. Because they all do pieces of it, so it doesn't necessarily hold together as well as just saying that a smaller team made something like this.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, overall, what would you rate this game if you had to on a scale of 1 through 5?
I think I'd probably give it somewhere in like the 4 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5.
I totally agree.
Which is still like a really good game, right? It's just like they tried something super crazy. It worked in some spots. It didn't necessarily work in others. But I still think it's a really fun game that I'm going to play you know, maybe
and
just not as often as I would with Call of Duty.
And it's something that's just easy to pick up and play and kind of do whatever. I mean, it doesn't really take any thoughts. Although there are a couple things, like I know you've had some issues with the servers. There were some server issues day one, and you know, there's a long time. It takes a long time to get into the games. There's 90 seconds between rounds, which we talked about. And overall, even just like loading the maps. One thing, I've said this about all my next-gen reviews, I thought it was going to be like instantaneous loading for, you know, once a map loaded. It's just as long, if not longer, than the previous generation systems.
Yeah, and you know, that's something that like, it probably has a lot to do with just, you have to wait for everyone on the server to load in, right? Because it's a multiplayer game. So,
but still, this one's only 5-on-5, so shouldn't this be faster than...
Yeah, more textures, all this crazy stuff. You'd wish that it could load in faster, but it does take a while. And you know, sometimes like the matchmaking's super weird too, right? Like, you know, we sat here trying to get into a game and it took forever.
Dude,
and it'd be like you have 5 people on one team and then there's no one else on the other team, or you're in with a whole bunch of your, you know, level 12 friends, and you get matched up against like 4th generation guys who have played this game like 100
Exactly.
levels.
That's the most frustrating thing too, and it's, you know, it's one of those challenges that always plagues video games, especially ones where people are, you know, tend to be so good at that, and it's tough for newbies to get in. But for me, this was actually a very easy game to pick up and start. You know, it's not, you know, Battlefield took a while, especially I hadn't played it in honestly a couple of years really. Like I was a Call of Duty guy until this year I got a Battlefield, but I remember my first, especially because how long it took for them to give you the actual like good loadouts that you'd want and stuff. And you had to sit there and play the game, so it was very frustrating at first versus this, which I just noted, which I got right away and was able to, you know, jump in, play, and kill, and get relatively good at, and be able to beat players that normally, you know, in Battlefield it was very frustrating. And you're just getting murked like 100, you know.
It's like in this game you don't really necessarily have to invest as much time to be able to play it enjoyably, where Battlefield, you know, you have to put in the time to get the loadouts and understand strategies so that you're not just running out into the middle of a map and getting killed by some sniper half a mile away, right?
Absolutely. Now, how do you think the graphics and everything compare with this for a next-gen game? Are you feeling it?
Yeah, I think that this looks really good. You know, it probably helps that, I mean, there is like a 360 version of this game, but, you know, it's like not coming out at the same time, not even made by the same people.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it's like way delayed too. And so, you know, they kind of didn't necessarily have to make the textures and stuff based on the old version, so I think it does look really good. PC looks crazy good too.
PC's incredible. Well, it's halftime. I'm gonna let you take your turn at this and stuff, and I'll kind of give some other impressions that I have. So, in terms, going back to the map, the one thing to me is that I just felt like, in general, the maps, I don't know, they're not bad. There's only, but I know you said you thought the first 2 that we were including in the beta were the best.
I think that like they put in the 2 strongest maps in there to sort of rope people in, and it's not to say that the other ones aren't strong. It's just that those 2 were so different that, you know, these other ones seem very similar to them. So once you have those 2 down and you kind of got used to those 2, all the other ones kind of seem really similar.
Yeah. One interesting thing too, so they have, obviously you have to be connected to play. The UI is all controlled on the server, so you get these grunts, inspectors, and automated soldiers in there. What do you think of that concept of having automated soldiers that aren't actual real-life players? To me, you know, I get the theory, especially because it's only 5-on-5, but they're so stupid and easy to kill half the time, but then they can get in your way and be annoying, and there's no real, I wish there was an easier way for you to tell the difference, because when you're looking at it far, you don't know if it's an actual other player that's a lot more difficult to kill versus, you know, a grunt, which you could take out. You know, you could basically run right in front of them in their face and they're not going to do anything. So it's kind of difficult to know who's who. I wish there was almost like an easier way to tell them apart from the traditional players.
Yeah. They look really similar and kind of almost just serve as like a smoke screen, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you think you're chasing after someone and then it turns out it was just a grunt. So I think if they had maybe like different costumes, or maybe they were, you know, wore red clothes instead of the same blue ones, that'd be super helpful.
But overall, I mean, is it a cool concept, do you think, for games going forward? This is the first game to really embrace this, at least that I've really played on the Xbox, where it's something, you know, on a server like all these other players, or is it just kind of fluff to hide that it's only 5-on-5?
Yeah, no, like people have talked about like how Call of Duty and Battlefield should be multiplayer only for, you know, years now, which, you know, I don't necessarily agree with, because I actually like the campaigns in those games, but you know, this is like an interesting go at that.
Impressions from when is this going to be the killer game for Xbox One? Is this going to bring a lot of people to it? And is it worth buying at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's on PC, but it's, you know, pretty tough on your computer, so you kind of already have to be invested in playing on a PC.
Yeah.
And so I think it's pretty Xbox One focused. Even though there's a 360 version coming out, this is like the
This is
version
the one
to
to
get.
get.
Yeah. So I think it's pushing a lot of people towards Xbox One. You know, it's the first real next-gen only game that people are, you know, getting to try that might take down Call of Duty or Battlefield.
So your score overall is 3.5 or 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree. You know, it's funny. I was going to go in and say 3.5 out of 5 because, you know, I hadn't played it in a few days because I got burned out of it. But getting back to it and playing it again, I'm going to go back and say I'm going to up it to a 4 because it is a good game. It's just quick. You know, you can burn out of it quickly. So we'll see. Time will tell if it's going to stand the test of time. But to me, if you have an Xbox One, you've already spent that much money on it. It's a must.
Yeah,
grab.
you're longing for something to play on.
You're
this
longing
thing.
for something. It's great to play with friends, especially if you like Call of Duty or any shooter games. This is the one to have.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's my concept. We're going to get back to playing. Appreciate you taking the time, and
course.
you're going to join us for some more reviews soon, right?
Yeah.
It's going down. Skee TV, Alex Rubens, DJ Skee. We out here playing Titanfall. We'll see y'all on Xbox Live.